Um, let's move to our board member comments. We can move up on that. We'll start off with, I'll try to get these in order as I see them. I've got Lear, Moss, Earl. Okay, Vice Chair Belknap. So, Member Lear.
Hi, thank you. In response to your comments, Chair, and Superintendent Dixon's comments, and Superintendent's fabulous editorial, well-written, articulate editorial in the D News, I would like to add, as a board member, I want to go beyond appreciation. I am very supportive of all of the great words and great support and great appreciation we're giving teachers. But I think we need to really use our creativity and our policy making opportunity to do something for teachers. I think we saw an example of it last legislative session when the board initially asked for extra pay for extra work, and the legislature came through with double what we asked for. I would love to look for every opportunity we can to actually do something for teachers, whether it's encouraging or providing incentives for their employers, districts, LEAs, to provide more flexibility, whether it's opportunities for the creativity bills. The sandbox bills are sort of one version. I'm a little nervous about how they'll play out. I don't want them to be more work for teachers, but I think we have to, as board members and policy members, look to do things for teachers and be concerned about their workload and be concerned about the stress that we're placing on them from some of our activities and rules and priorities. And I really want us to put into action our words of appreciation. Thanks for the time.
Okay, thank you. Member Moss.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to pass along and add my endorsement to a commendation from Dr. Estrada, our education specialist, Title III Refugee and Immigrant Program. And I'll just read part of it and add my thoughts. It's a commendation for Principal Jeremy Chatterton at Highland High School and his administrative team and front office staff, especially Rebecca Franco, for welcoming 2 USBE observers. Specifically important, the commendation is that they are setting aside a room for prayers during religious observances made public by Principal Chatterton's announcement during the USBE visit. And that opportunity is one that provided to any religion for students in public schools under Title IV of the Civil Rights Act. So I just add my commendation and thanks for that. This is, again, open to everybody, but I think it's especially important as a welcoming sign to those who are arriving in our state. I had the opportunity a couple of weeks ago to travel to England and see where a lot of my ancestors left the docks of Liverpool to come over here and think about that immigrant experience. And so I think this is a great sign of rolling out a welcome mat. And again, it's open to anybody regardless of nationality or religion, but I appreciate their efforts. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Member Earl.
Thank you. I just have a couple of thoughts that have been just kind of on my mind over the last little bit. Marlo Oakes, if you've heard him speak, he's our state treasurer. He talks about ESG, which is environmental social governance. And he talks about how this is making its way through corporate America. He refers to a couple of these large organizations, and specifically Larry Fink, with the CEO of BlackRock, who says you have to force behaviors. And at BlackRock, we're forcing behaviors. Then he gives an example of a local company that's being impacted by, let me get to the actual thing. So a few weeks ago, he was contacted by a local organization, local company, utility company, and he says, I learned a large insurance company informed one of our local utility companies that they could no longer provide the company's fleet. with automobile insurance because some of the power they provide is coal-based. And then the question is posed, is this insurance company going to stop insuring motorists if they drive gasoline-powered cars? And then also, if it comes from a coal plant, will this company decline coverage for that vehicle? ESG leads to bad investing, and he's trying to draw attention to this, where high ESG scores trump mundane concerns like balance sheets, income statements, etc. Things that are very measurable, that are concrete. And he talks about how Utah has such a high credit rating, not just nationally, but internationally, and that this type of social movement within these large organizations can create harm in the economic system, and specifically in our capitalist system here in the United States. So what does that have to do with education? I just want us to kind of be thinking about this, about imagining or actually reimagining a fundamental systemic change in education, one where it's based on social products or social beliefs or dispositions versus the actual product or education of a child. Just like ESG, this can also lead to bad investing. A social crediting type of scoring in education will lead to poor investments in Utah's students. The only reason why I bring this up is I think it's something, as these large organizations, both nationally and internationally, have investments in education and children, that we are very aware as a board of these movements, so that we too can be cautious that we're not investing in the wrong things. So thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Vice Chair Belknap?
Yes, thank you. I'm feeling pretty grateful today. And I was thinking back when I was a child here in the state of Utah, and every year on our report cards, they'd ask you what you want to be when you grow up. And my mom saved all of those. And as I've looked through all of them, every time it said I wanted to be a teacher. I love my profession. I'm grateful for it. I'm also grateful for the opportunity the board had to have a workshop this week where we talked about communication and relationship skills. We received legal perspectives on some very interesting cases, principals' perspectives, and how they're dealing with all the changes and things happening, and also some introduction to some parliamentary procedure. I appreciate those who came, and especially want to thank Sybil for all her time and her work that she put in as changes were needed to be made at last minute. Also, I wanted to point out, not that this is the only one, but today point out one of our staff members who was actually the board's employee, and that's Deputy Superintendent Jones. I'm grateful for his integrity and for his honesty. I'm thankful that he takes time to keep us all updated and keep our situational awareness there. And I appreciate that he calls us ma'am and sir, even though sometimes it makes me feel old, Scott. And that's all I have. Over.
Thank you. Member Straight?
I appreciate that. I feel old already. So I had a couple great opportunities recently. And I know board member Hutchings was also at this because I saw her there. But let's see if you can see that. Oh, you probably can. It looks blurry. But I was able to go to the open house for the Davis Catalyst Center. And it was a great opportunity to see some great things going on in our schools. And man, they have some amazing programs, audio and video production, business marketing and entrepreneurship, culinary arts, cybersecurity, game development, advanced programming, graphic design, medical assistant, pharmacy technician, unmanned systems. I didn't get to visit that one. I feel bad. But anyway, I loved making that visit, and it was inspiring. So shout out to Davis School District and their Catalyst program, or the Catalyst School is what they call it. Also, yesterday, I had a great opportunity to go to Salt Lake and spend 6 hours at the Utah School for the Deaf and Blind, where I was able to participate in interviews for a new football coach and staff. But now that they're adding football, a couple months back, the Utah High School Activities Association, where I serve also, they voted to approve 8-man football in Utah. And it looks like in this first season, we're going to have 8 teams. So that's a great opportunity for the young people of our state to be involved in. You know, I was reminded the other day by one of the board members that tomorrow is the 16th month anniversary of taking the oath of office for many of us who are new to the board during the last election cycle. And wow, what an eventful day that was. January 6th, 2021. I don't think we'll ever forget that date because there were other things going on politically in our nation at that time as well. This morning, Board Member Davis went over that list of 4 things that were actually developed, as she stated, by Superintendent Dixon, as she listened to parents about their concerns regarding education when I was first on the board. And of course, that very first one is engage in parental transparency. And wow, we have a great responsibility. We have a great responsibility to be transparent. And you know, as I've thought over the week, I planned on speaking in this, and I changed what I was going to say about 10 different times. But it was a good mental process for me. I did my mental gymnastics, jumping all around. And I decided that I wanted to talk about transparency as a publicly elected official. Now, I've made so many mistakes in my time as a public official. And one of the benefits I've had, though, is I had 10 years already into public service before being elected to the board. As an elected official, and I wrote this down, I learned years ago that I have a responsibility to be fully transparent. Transparency in public office is not a social media post. It is representing constituents in a publicly noticed meeting such as the one we're in right now. And I want to keep this positive as best I can, but I also want to be straightforward in regards to my vision of transparency and what I was taught actually by a veteran of 35 years in public service who actually told me that very thing. He said, if you've talked about it and debated and went through the process of coming to an opinion, that opinion, you have a responsibility to share that with the governing body in a public meeting. And as I look back, a lot of our struggles over the last 16 months, in my opinion, comes down to us making our opinions known to a few constituents that's not in a public meeting, such as Facebook or Twitter or whatever it may be. I absolutely defend the right of anyone to express their opinion and to write it down. But I also believe there's a responsibility to share that debate with the entire board and to defend your position to the best of your ability and so that we can make best decisions. I learned long ago, as I was throwing bales of hay, that bale of hay was opposition. And for me to get it up on the wagon required leverage, but it also required growing strength. And the more bells I lifted and the more bells I threw, the stronger I got. You know, it's the same way with our U.S. Constitution. Our first Constitution was actually a failure. It was a failure because it didn't have enough power to defend people's rights. But that came about because of our conflict with Great Britain. But our second Constitution, the one we currently live under, was actually hotly debated because many people believed that the new Constitution, which we currently have, had too much power. And there was great opposition to the Constitution. Those who opposed the Constitution were called anti-federalists, and those who supported it were called federalists. Now, to make this short, because I know I'm taking time here, but we're ahead. But anyway, the opposition to the U.S. Constitution ended up resulting in the first 10 amendments to the Constitution, which we call the Bill of Rights. and it made the Constitution stronger and better because it protected the rights of the individual, which is one of our great traditions. You know, it's the same thing here. For example, I very much appreciated, and I wrote it down here, I have read about this. I try and keep up on educational issues and issues in politics. But board member Earl mentioned about ESG. Now, I don't want to get into what that is right now. She explained a view of that. I appreciate that that was brought to the forefront of the board and it was stated directly. You know, as I look back, we have way too much that's happening that isn't in the public. For example, I would really like to know, there was a Facebook post regarding Senate Bill 244, and then it said ethnic studies, and then CRT, curriculum requirements passed with flying colors in the House and Senate. I guess our legislators still don't recognize CRT when they see it. That's an opinion, okay? And I want that opinion defended in the board. I want it debated because you know what? Maybe I'm wrong. And maybe I could be convinced that Senate Bill 244 was critical race theory. Another one, House Bill 428. This is a dangerous bill, quote. School climate surveys ask very subjective questions. I don't remember any of this being debated in the public. We need to debate these things in the public. I also read, and I forward this to everyone, and in order to be transparent, I said I would say something in board meeting about it, so I will. In an article published nationally, board member Klein contributed to an article titled Portrait of a Graduate, used to push critical race theory through social and emotional learning. I have no problem with that being stated. That's the title of the argument. Do I agree with it on face value? No. But you know what? I could be convinced. I'm celebrating the fact that in the very near future, board leadership has asked that we review our strategic plan. I am all for that because I'm sure there's areas of improvement. I'm sure that there's things that we could make better with Portrait of a Graduate. And I've heard varying opinions on personalized competency-based learning. Let's have those debates. Let's have those discussions. Let's just like our Constitution with the Bill of Rights, let's make it stronger. Just like lifting those bales of hay. And I invite every single board member to express their views to the fullest extent of their ability. And we may disagree, but I think we need to fight for our position. And I respect that communication. And I look forward to having many debates, and I look forward to having many discussions to where we make our policies even better. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Straight. Member Booth?
Thank you, Chair Hans. Chair Huntsman, I'm grateful for this opportunity. Today I'm having allergies, as you can hear. It might have been better if we were meeting in Salt Lake because I have too many blossoming trees outdoors from my home. And as a result, you get this voice. But I'm grateful to reflect for a moment on the experience we had with many of the board members and some of our esteemed staff members. This little workshop together where we were communicating with one another and focusing on communication, on building relationships, on preparing ourselves to do the job that we have been selected by our constituents to do. I particularly have to smile as I recall board members and staff members in our state board kazoo band that we experienced together. or as we were doing a rap and board members were standing up and in rhythm and creating body rhythms, talking about and celebrating some of the important elements of our strategic plan. Our bell choir, as we were using handbells to reinforce important sentiments like "Let there be peace on earth" and "This land is your land." It was a great experience together, and it reinforced in my mind the power of individuals coming from many diverse backgrounds, many different levels of experience, and then coming together with a common purpose, with a common to create a better tomorrow for those that we have responsibility for. I resonated today with all of our friends who have celebrated and brought focus to the excellent work of our teachers and educators across the state. I also resonated with board member Lear's suggestion that not only should we and can we be appreciative, but we also need to do things. And the thought came to my mind, what can we? What are we primarily positioned as state board members to do, or at USBE with our wonderful staff? And I thought our role primarily is to support, nurture, and strengthen local educators, local leaders of learning, local teachers, local parents in what is needed most in their area. We can come up with lots of programs that will support from a state level, but what's needed in San Juan is not the same thing that's needed in downtown Salt Lake City, or what is needed in Spanish Fork is not necessarily what's needed in Logan. But those local leaders know what is needed, and everything that we can do to support them and prepare resources to assist them in their efforts to meet the specific needs of their local students and their local leaders of learning and faculty can make all the difference. So I'm just excited and enthusiastic about the opportunity to work together as friends, team members in building a brighter educational future for our children. And I think we will best do that by preparing and supporting local leaders in recognizing and understanding what the needs are and finding the best practices and the very best ways of meeting those needs for many years to come. Thank you very much to all of you, my colleagues on the board, and all of our magnificent staff members at USBE for all of the efforts that you are putting into our sometimes less than streamlined ways of arriving at final decisions. When the Constitution was being debated hotly, it was not very easy to compromise. It was not very easy to find commonalities. And we'll find that today and over the next centuries, that we have bright people trying to do things in the way that they would do them best. And we need to learn from each other, hearing all of the various ways that one might solve the problems. And I look forward to our future of working together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Member Booth. Next, Member Klein.
Hello. I just wanted to briefly express my gratitude for the good teachers that we have in our state that are trying to follow Utah law and that are honoring parents and the trust that the parents have given them. I'm also very grateful for the very brave teachers that have to exercise a lot of courage to come forward on when things are happening that shouldn't be happening, and they're concerned for their jobs, or they end up having to leave a position because what they're being required to do goes against their conscience. And so in an effort to be transparent, I share much of what is sent to me so that the public is aware of these things that are happening. It's rare that I have a teacher reach out that is courageous enough to put her name to it. But I did receive a letter yesterday, an open letter that she signed her name to and gave me permission to share. And so I wanted to read her letter as to what she has experienced. She says, "Dear parents, as a regular and special ed teacher with a master's degree, I implore you to get active in your child's classroom. Both public and charter schools are being attacked by extremely liberal policies. Charters are especially vulnerable to these pressures as their funding is highly dependent on donations, and they are not required to publicize who the donors are. At the time of my departure, I was told that a transgender student would be allowed to choose what bathroom they wanted to use because the parents were, quote, very, very liberal. It is terrifying to read about the Loudoun County School District in Virginia. A transgender girl / biological male entered a girl's restroom and sexually assaulted a female student. The Loudoun County Juvenile Court found the male student not innocent of charges of forcible sodomy and forcible fellatio in the May 28th incident. The same student pleaded no contest last week in a separate case to 2 charges of abduction and sexual battery involving the October 6th incident." She continues, "Middle school and high school students are raging hormone factories. I cannot count the number of students that masturbate in my class. The sexualization is everywhere, and we must protect our students from the trauma of sexual assault, regardless of the offender's gender identity. In a school training, we were told not to tell parents about a student's declaration of gender dysphoria, as this may cause the student problems at home. Knowing that suicide is a high risk factor for students experiencing gender dysphoria, it is criminal to not notify the parents. The schools should be encouraging the parents to help their children through this difficult process. Keeping parents in the dark is wrong. Sincerely, Sydney Armstrong." Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie. Next, we'll have Member Norton.
Yes, I just have a few little brief comments. I've centered them kind of along 3 strands, but all 3 strands tie very closely to what Board Member Booth said earlier. And actually, they tie quite closely to Board Member Booth himself. At our board workshop, we had the opportunity, as he just discussed with you, to have a musical theater experience. And to be taught by such a highly qualified teacher was such a joy to me. And to see the way with that one activity, we were able to feel joy, we were able to learn, we were able to communicate so well with each other. It just increased my gratitude for the work that we do, the people that we serve, and I am so very grateful for that. I also was so pleased to see and to feel again the joy that students feel when they are learning, because we were all students. And to say that we were with a superb talent, and at least my talent was somewhat lacking, it was okay. And I felt a great sense of success when I left there, even though I was horrible and I knew it, but the group just went right on, and it was so much fun. And I think everybody that was involved just felt happiness and success. And I thought that's exactly what great learning is. And that is brought about by a great teacher like you, Randy, and I will remember that day for the rest of my life. It was just so fabulous, and that communication that we built and the trust that we built in that circle was very profound. Tonight, I am not going to be able to be at that event with the arts teachers, and I didn't know I was going to be so emotional over that. But I hope that you will all express to them what an important role that they are playing in our schools, and how grateful we are for them, and the job that they are doing in healing our country and healing our students and healing our schools. And, we have many great teachers that won't be there, but for those who are there, just applaud doubly loud to give them my great sense of appreciation for all that they do, and the beauty that they bring to our world. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Norton. Member Hanson.
Thank you, Chair. First, just wanted to say thanks to all of our great underpaid and underappreciated educators. I was just able to attend the graduation of our youngest child at SUU this last week, and it gave me another chance to reflect on and appreciate the positive contributions that teachers have made in my life and in the lives of my family. Also, I'd like to make a personal public apology for the lack of courage that was demonstrated in the board's withdrawal of the gender guidance document. Transgender issues are real. Transgender kids are part of our student populations. Transgender legal issues are complicated. Whatever your positions are on the issues, we've heard more about those today, there was and there is a real need for this formal guidance. I believe that it's the work of the board to do hard things, to tackle hard projects, and to provide clear guidance to promote consistency and compliance with the law. I apologize to staff who worked tirelessly to draft a quality guidance document. Apologize to the public who took time to comment on the document that was produced, and to the local boards, the administrators, teachers, parents, and students who are left now to fend for themselves. We let you down, and it's my belief that we as a board could have and should have done better. Thanks.
Thank you, Member Hanson. Vice Chair Davis.
I took a lot of time already this morning, so I just want to quickly say, some concerns were expressed by a teacher about some things going on. I just want to be really clear. There was a concern that our charter schools rely heavily on donors, and recently we went through all of the data of charter schools and their funding, and they're actually almost 100% entirely publicly funded with public dollars. So if that teacher or teachers like that teacher have concerns, please visit with your charter authorizer, because there are oversights in place there. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Cannon.
Thank you. Board Member Norton's tears inspired me a little bit, because a week ago I had an opportunity to go across the street to the elementary school that my granddaughter attends for an after-school event they called Cottonwood in Color. And I believe this is directly a result of Granite District's commitment to providing Beverly Taylor Sorensen art specialists in every school in Granite District, because this was an absolutely fabulous event. And it was after school. And as I walked into that school through an archway of multicolored balloons and a giant sign that said Cottonwood in Color, I went in, and every space in the hall was filled with the most incredible artwork that had been done by these students. And many of the things that Kathy Jensen has brought to us and has shown to us were exemplified here. There was one hall area by a classroom where they had been studying light waves and different waves, and then they had done wave art in all kinds of colors. There were digital prints. There were bugs. One of my favorite was where the children had drawn caricatures of themselves. these were just absolutely darling. And I'll tell you, my heart was just uplifted, and I was inspired and so grateful for what the arts bring to the education of our children. And it's just one of the most important things in my mind that makes education worthwhile for our children. And so I appreciate all teachers. I very much appreciate these art teachers and what they bring to our children's education. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not seeing any other hands raised. I had two other thoughts that I just wanted to hurry and get out really quick. That I neglected to put in my earlier presentation, and that was, many of us are aware there's this war happening in Ukraine, and it's interesting. It doesn't get in the news, but with the mass exodus out of Ukraine into Poland and the other countries, the big question is who among you in this exodus, and as these war refugees are leaving that country, and then who's also left, is they're asking a couple key questions, and these are first responder questions. Who are the doctors? Any doctors among you? Who are the nurses? Who are the teachers? And, we talk about education, and we may boast a little bit that, we got aggressive during our pandemic and the challenges compared to other states. But what's happening over in Europe just speaks to the education community of teachers and what they're committed to do. And education is happening over there. They're meeting in tents. They're kind of a nucleus of these new little communities. And so if we can keep them in our thoughts, our prayers, and that it speaks to the value of the education community and what they're capable and how essential they really are. I was reflecting really quick on teachers in my life and who is most relevant, and we've had a lot of talk about early intervention, and I've had a lot of awesome teachers, but one of the best was with Miss Tim, elementary first grade. When this little kid showed up in there, I had blonde hair back then, and it's usually a butch. It was easier to maintain. I didn't have to comb it, or my parents didn't have to do it. But I was a bundle of energy, and they have acronyms now to label kids like me that go through the education system. But she was very young, a new teacher, as I remember. But her influence on me was really important because it helped me early on, before these acronyms were labeled and people how to deal with difficult kids like myself, to control this energy. But she put that energy to work in help and in service in the classroom. And it was interesting, all through my school years, set a standard there that I could control all that energy. It's still not controlled very well, if you ask my wife, but it's that early intervention helped in a big way, that kept me out of the principal's office or out of trouble. And I have a great deal of respect for her. And again, she was a very, very new teacher. So with this, so that concludes my remarks. I'm not seeing any other hands raised. Prior to this, we're going to do a handoff to Vice Chair Belknap. Do you want to take on the next item before lunch, or attempt to, and then we'll go to our lunch break?